Alright guys, I'm back a lot sooner than I thought. By this stage you've probably seen my update on the mixer video that I just posted a week or two ago, with the 8-month update on my ZBX mixer, where I did a direct dough mix, where I blended the 3 flours you can see there, the Molini Pizzuti, the Costa, the Pulcinella, and the Caputo Tipo1. What I've decided to do is a bit of an experiment with the bulk fermentation, because I've not really done much bulk fermenting. I didn't really like when I boiled the dough after I bulk fermented it for about 23 hours, where it was really not smooth, because the dough puffed up quite a lot. When I went to boil it, you're squeezing a lot of that air out of the dough. What I also found is that the dough was a little bit elastic, and when you were stretching it, it would stretch back. It wasn't as pliable as I was expecting. So I kind of want to perfect, or I want to do a test where I do 2 different mixes, sorry, I do the same mix but 2 different methods with bulk fermenting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to boil one straight away, and I'm going to put it in the tray, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it basically do bulk fermentation already in balls until it doubles in size, and then I'm gonna put it in the fridge, which is something that I don't really want to do, but I'm gonna try and manage it with the fridge so it doesn't overproof. When I did do the bulk fermentation in the other video, it actually took more than 8 hours before the actual dough started rising or doubling in size, so it took quite a while. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a second mix where I'm going to bulk ferment it in a mass. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it for about 8 hours, and then I'm going to boil it. So what I want to do is I want to wait until that moment where it starts to, or the yeast starts kicking in and starts to double in size without actually doubling in size. And I'll boil it. To see if I can ball it and maintain like a smooth structure to the balls, and then let it rise for the rest of the period. The other thing I'm not sure yet, which I'll probably work out, is I discussed where, with the mixer, we rest the dough for 10 minutes and then we let it do a slow spin of the dough before we pull it out. Possibly, I don't know, I haven't decided yet. I'm going to experiment again with doing that with this bulk fermentation. I'm just worried that it's just going to make it very elastic and it's not going to relax and stretch when I go to make the pizza, because that's a problem that I've had every time I've done that, when I've spun the mixer like that. So what we'll do is we'll get started. So ingredients are the same: 300 of the blue, 600 of the red, 100 of the Caputo Tipo1, 70% hydration, and we're going to have 30 grams of salt, 1 gram of yeast. So we'll move over to the mixer. I guess this is a good opportunity to see the mixer mixing. We won't muck around, we won't mess around. So again, similar as to how you saw me do this the other day, or the last video. I'm just going to try and see if I can, there you go, focus on the mixing. If you really need to see the mixer, you've seen it already. I don't think I need to show it. So what we'll do is we'll start at 60% hydration. I'll pour in the 500 mils of water, and then I'm going to pour in an additional 100 mils, which has the melted yeast, which I'm melting right now. And what we'll do is we'll build our gluten structure or strength. So off we go. And again, you can see the mixer is performing fantastic. No issues with it. A few people have asked me, is it still performing? Does it still work as well as when I first got it? Yep, it's fantastic. Still doing what it's supposed to, and I've had zero issues with it. So here you go. So we're going to pour in this water, which is 500 mils, and then I'm going to pour in that extra 100 mil with the melted yeast in it. So we'll pour it all in there. So that's so we've got the 500 mil. Excuse me, guys. I've had the flu. Still lingering. Alright, so next is the 100 ml with the yeast in it. Just pour it a bit everywhere. I like to try and get it in the edges as well. There you go. There you go, it's all in there. So, alright, so we're up to pretty much where the dough is starting to smooth out. Again, we're gonna try to mix at a low speed, where I've mentioned in my first video where I said I like to do most of my mixing at a lower speed, just simply because as soon as you speed it up, it does heat up your dough, yeah? So, and it's not because it's the machine itself doing it. I think it's mostly from the friction of the dough. You've got the hook spinning, you've got the bowl spinning, then you've got the breaker bar that is stationary. So there's multiple points of friction where the dough is just gonna get warmed up. I'm not using refrigerated anything today again, so we'll increase that speed once we get the final part of the water. So it's pretty smooth now. 60%, we want to build that gluten strength in the dough at a lower hydration. You want to give it time, there's no rush. Don't feel like you have to put yourself under pressure to hurry it up. Temperature doesn't go out of control at a low speed. And if you use refrigerated water, yeah, you're gonna be fine. And you'll find that all these types of mixes, all the videos that I've watched where everybody, measures temperatures, it's the same thing. They're all starting with cold water to keep those temperatures low. But different recipes do call for different temperature. So, getting the temperature to 28 degrees on your dough is not necessarily a bad thing depending on what you're trying to do. As long as you understand how it affects the dough. So we'll add the salt. And we'll add a bit of water just to help the salt melt a little. Always add a little bit of water when you put your salt, because as it swishes around the bowl, it melts it. Because the dough, as it moves on that salt, you don't really realize, but it actually melts really quickly. So you just get that even absorption, distribution. I won't talk too much because I think I'm just over mixing now. So what we're going to do is I'm going to speed it up. 6. That's 6. So what we'll do is we'll get it mixing, because I'm talking too much and I'm forgetting to put in the water. And if you over mix it, then what happens is the water is going to start coming out of the dough, and it's not going to mix, because you can over mix it. So what we'll do is we'll get that mixing, and plus we don't want to warm it up too much because we're just unnecessarily mixing it. We're only going to 70%. Put a bit more water. We're nearly there. We don't have much water. It's probably halfway. So we'll put the final, we've got 20 more mil, I think, here. Maybe just a little bit. So this one here, what we're going to do is we're going to, I think I'm going to boil this one, and then the next that I'm going to do, we'll do a bulk fermentation. All right, so it's been about 15 minutes since I've made the mass with the pizza dough, or balled it up. So here you go. So what I'll do is, I've only done it once, I've not done it twice. So what I'm not going to ball it a second time. What I'll do is I'm going to cut it and make the balls and put it straight into the tray. There's no point boiling it a second time because we're gonna make the balls. So here's the pizza box. We're gonna use the same one as last time, the one that fits the 6 dough balls. And what I'll do is for the second mix that I'll make shortly, I'm gonna use this one here, the Canberra. These are called Canberras, I think that's what the brand is anyway. So we're gonna put the second one, we're gonna ferment as a mass. We're going to put it in here, just for 8 hours. It's a little bit tighter than this one here, so that way it won't spread as much. But we're not trying to rise it or anything. We just need it to ferment for about that 8 hours. I'm not going to do the 23, 24 hours because then it just gets too airy. Like I said, and when I was balling it, I don't like the roughness of the balls. So this experiment's just going to basically look at whether bulk fermenting dough balls already made, or whether we do a partial bulk fermentation and then we do the balls later, whether it affects the dough in any way, whether it makes it a little bit more softer or fluffier. I will say that bulk fermenting it for 24 hours like I did at the last video, even though it was hard to stretch and I had to basically the borders press them all down because I needed to, because it wasn't stretching as well as what I would have liked. The pizza dough, even though I pressed on the borders, was puffing up like crazy in the oven as well, which was actually quite interesting. So it was very much like what you'd expect if you had a dough made out of bigger, where you get the really puffy crust. So let's go. So what I'll do is, I'm not going to bother with showing you guys the balling. You've seen it, right? So what we'll do is I'll ball it quickly, I'll pause it, and then I'll show you once they're balled. But the idea is to get smooth pizza dough balls like it is here now. See, it's beautiful, like baby smooth. And I'm touching it and it's just not sticking. I got to be honest with you, it doesn't even really feel like a 70% hydration. Look at that. It just comes off the counter beautifully. Look at that. Look at that. So I'll check with you guys in a second. Just bear with me. All right, so I've just finished balling the mass. So we've got 6 dough balls, 288 grams each. Actually pretty much spot on, 288 each. I'll bring it close so you can see. I'll just see if we can see how beautiful and smooth they are. So what we're going to do is, these ones we're going to leave at room temperature. They're going to go in the pantry under the stairs because I know the temperature down there is roughly about 18 degrees. It's the coolest part of the house. And then what we'll do is we'll come and check up on these. All right, and then if you bear with me for a second, I'll start the next mix and we'll do a bulk fermentation. And we're going to start with the same process on 4. So that's on 4 again, and we'll start with the 500, and then we're going to put in the 100 mils with the melted yeast in there, and it's 1 gram of fresh yeast. There we go, it's 500 mils in there. Now we're going with the additional 100 mils with the yeast, which will bring us to the 600. Just pour it everywhere, just so you get that, try to get even distribution. And then we're going to add another 100 mil once we get the salt in there to bring it to 70% hydration. There you go, so that's it, it's all in there. 30 grams again. There you go, 30 grams in there. And we're going to add little bit of water to help that melt. So we're going to speed it up in a minute. So you don't have to mix it much more, because once you get it to this point where it's smooth, it's lifting off the bowl, you're not adding any more strength. It doesn't, if you keep on doing this, you're actually going to over mix it, and it's going to start sticking to the bowl, because you get to a point where this dough is no longer absorbing moisture and it starts releasing it, so it starts to come back out, and it gets all, you can see you lose that smoothness and it starts getting shiny, and then you're going to have to do multiple folds to the dough to get rid of it. And I think that's when you ruin your gluten mesh on the dough. So we'll stop it. So what we're going to do is I've decided with this dough, it's going to sit here for 10 minutes. So I'm going to time it, and we're going to come back, and then we're going to do a slow little spin, maybe one full turn of the bowl, and then because I've seen other people do this with their machines, whether it's at home or whether it's been professional pizza makers. Let's see what it does to the dough. Yeah, and then what we'll do is once we've done that one full spin of the bowl, we'll put it on the counter, and we're going to ball it, and then we're going to let it rest under the bowl for 10 minutes, and then we're going to put it in the container for bulk fermentation. So I'm going to pause it now. We'll come back in 10 minutes, and then let's do the next step. Alrighty, so it's been about 10 minutes since we've finished mixing the dough. So you can see it's relaxed a little bit in the bowl there. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to start the machine on the lowest speed, and what we'll do is we'll do maybe 1.5, 2 full turns of the bowl until it gathers the dough. Now, I did mention in the previous video and at the start of this video that normally when I do this, it adds a lot of strength or stress to the dough, where I find that when I go to use it later on, when you go to stretch the dough balls, it's really difficult. But what we're going to do is I'm going to cut the dough, like I said, instead of pinching it. Let's see if maybe it's the pinching of the dough that causes it, not necessarily the spinning, because a lot of people do this. Actually, let me know what this is actually called. I know what they call it in Italian, but what's this particular process called in English? Because I don't know. Actually, I don't know what this is called. But let's go one slow turn. So what it does is, see, it gathers the dough up off the bowl, but we're not mixing it. Yeah. So what we want to do is just, there you go, one turn. And what it's done is, if you touch it, it's actually made it dry. So it's kind of like when you do the folds, you know, it makes the top of the dough less wet when you ball it. It's done the same thing, where I can put my hand on there. Look at that, nothing sticky. It's really dry to the touch. So I'm not even going to wet my hands, I don't think, to do this. So what we'll do is I'm going to cut it. So I'll grab it. Probably not the best knife for this, but yeah. These are a little bit wet on the bottom where it didn't come off the bowl. So what we'll do is I'll just wet my hand a little bit and cut it. So we'll cut it off everything. What I'll do is without actually cutting or scraping the hook, we'll see if I can cut it off the hook so we can slide it off without the dough actually. There you go. It's actually a lot easier than doing it like this. Like that, and it's just come off in one piece. And that's relatively clean. It was dirty because I used it before and I didn't clean it anyway. So what we'll do is we'll clean that in a minute. So you can see it's relatively clean. So what we'll do is we'll come to the bench. Sorry guys, excuse the bumping of the phone. And what we'll do is so you can see I've set it next to each other, not on top of each other. So I'm gonna wet my hands and we're gonna ball it, try to ball it. I think this is gonna need to be balled a couple of times. Yeah. Yeah, I want to try and smooth it out, but I think, see, it's tearing up here a little bit. So what we're going to do is probably going to have to let it sit. For a bit. So what we'll do is let's let it rest. So we'll cover that up. Alright, let's give it another 10 minutes and then we'll give it another quick fold. Alright, so it's been about 15 minutes since I balled up this second dough. So what we'll do is we'll have a look at it because it didn't smooth out the first time as well as I would have liked. So it's just had time to relax a little bit more. Because it developed a bit of a tear over here, which is not ideal. It's not what I wanted. But it's because when we spun it in the mixer, it gave it a lot of strength. It was very tight and solid. But it's already sort of fermenting a little. You can see little bubbles on there. I'm just going to add a bit of flour, just a tiny little sprinkle to the dough, not much. And what we'll do is we'll smooth it out. So there you go. So the second folds have given it a much smoother look. So there you go. So it's smoothed it out a lot better now. So you can see that, and it's just really nice to the touch. It's got a few bubbles already forming. The counter's actually quite cool. So the fact that it's just set on the counter, because it was a little bit warm from the mixing, because again I didn't use cold water from the fridge because I didn't have any. Yeah, the dough actually feels cool to the touch. So excuse me. So like I mentioned before, we're going to use this. What are these called? This is called, I just call it a Cambro because that's the brand. But it's like a professional catering tub, which I would assume would probably be used for sauces mostly, but since it's in litres. So we'll just dump it in there. This one here is a 15 litre one, which is way more than what you need it to be, but it's the only one I've got. I purchased probably a too bigger one. I wasn't sure what size I was going to need when I first started doing this. So there you go. So you can see that's in there. So we're just going to put this under the stairs, room temperature, to bulk ferment. The great thing about the lids on these is that they're not really tight lids, so they're kind of a little bit loose. So there's going to be a tiny little bit of air transfer that can still occur with these lids, and you kind of want to. You don't want it completely airtight. So this is going to be good for that air transfer. So what we'll do is we're going to let this sit for 8 hours. and then I'll monitor it. I don't want this to rise. So what I want to do is I want to see this relax, because there's only 1 gram of yeast, and we've got the 300 grams of the Costa d'Amalfi, which is the W3320, which will allow it for that longer, or push out the room fermentation longer for us. So what we'll do is I want to boil it in the next 8 hours. So I might not be able to videotape me boiling this, okay? So we might have to see it once it's boiled. So yeah, just bear with me, and we'll see you when I start the next step. Alright guys, so a bit of an update on the doughs that I made earlier today. So it's been approximately 8 hours since I mixed the first batch, which is the one that I actually boiled. So it's just in here. So you can see that it's almost doubled in size. So it's not quite there yet. But it's only really started the dough itself moving or doing anything probably in the last hour and a half. So considering that the temperature on this dough would have been probably close to 28 degrees, which is the same as the video you probably would have seen previous when I mixed the same dough. Yeah, you can see that it actually hasn't pushed the yeast to overwork the dough. So you can see with 1 gram of yeast that it's just slowly rising or bulk fermenting and maturing. So this one here, I'm just going to leave it at room temperature longer. We'll see if we can actually get to 24 hours on this one here without actually going in the fridge. So, and now this is the second mix. It's a little bit foggy in there, so you probably can't see it. So this one's been sitting there for about 7 hours. So if you have a look in there, it's just spread a little bit. It didn't overproof. But what I want to do is unlike on my previous video, the one where I do the update on my mixer for 8 months of ownership, I'm not going to do the 24 hours in the bulk form because, like I said, when I boiled it, I didn't like how the boiling really made the balls rough, and it kind of made the dough a little bit harder to stretch. So what I want to do is I want to make balls now and then do the bulk fermentation. So the only difference between the two, if you recall earlier, when we mixed this, we gave it a 10-minute rest in the actual mixer, and then we did a full spin, or what was it, 1.5 turns of the whole bowl, just to strengthen the dough in the actual mixer, and then we boiled it twice on the counter before it went in here. Just so what we did is we gave it a little bit extra strength. So what I want to do now is obviously we're going to boil it and put it in another similar container as that one, that we've got the other already made dough balls. The one thing that I've noticed, these ones basically just got pulled out of the mixer and balled. The one thing that I'm noticing is the dough balls themselves are already pretty relaxed. They're not puffing up, they're sort of spreading. So, and they got only balled once on the counter. So this is a good test just to see just exactly the techniques that you have to put in place to get a result with the dough balls. So I could probably maybe ball these twice. They probably would have grown a little bit puffier, but it's maybe something that we can do it as a test maybe on the next mix we do. But it'll be interesting to see what the other one that I've strengthened in the mixer, which is this one here. It'd be interesting to see when I ball these, whether these puff up or whether they relax the same as those ones. So what we'll do is I'll get the cat out of the way. I'll have to clean the bench again. Oh. Anyway, so give me a second. I'll just pause this and yeah, let's do this. So here you go. So I've got another container similar to the other one where it fits the 6 dough balls. So I'll put these ones in this one. It's got a slightly different lid. So we'll be able to tell which one is which when we go to cook them, or check on the update or So what we'll do is, let's pull this out. I'm not going to use any flour. I might just, it's a little bit moist in there, so I might just wet my hands with a bit of flour, but it looks like it might just come out by pulling it out with my hands. There we go. So that came out pretty clean. So what we'll do is we'll fix it up a little bit. Now, I don't want to overwork this dough too much. So let's give that a go. Again, we'll make the dough balls around that 280, 290. I'm just going to put a little bit of flour on it because there's a bit of moisture from sitting in that container. Just don't want to... yeah. It's a little bit deceiving with the weight. So that's 288 grams. So we'll try and stick to that with all of them. 307. Oh yeah, that's 287. And the dough actually, even though it has started to puff up, it hasn't started rising. So I think when I ball this, it's 286. I should be able to get relatively smooth dough balls. 306. 287. And let's see what we can get out of this one. It's 266. Wow, maybe 276. 282. Let's just see what this is. 293. 288. There you go. So yeah, about 288 grams across the board there. So now what the aim of this is I want to ball these, but I want them to stay smooth, not rough like in my other video, because they haven't puffed up too much. I should be able to accomplish a smooth dough ball, and it looks like I am. As you can see as I'm balling it, see the surface is staying smooth. So that's what I want to accomplish with this exercise, which unfortunately didn't work out with the other mix that I did, where I think I just let it bulk ferment in a mass for too long and it just puffed up. So using too much flour also, try not to do that because it just makes it hard to pinch the bottom. But at the same time, it's a bit of a juggling act where you don't want it to stick to your hands too much. So what we'll do is just leave it there for a second. We'll ball all the others. Actually, it's not too bad. It's not sticking. That moisture that was sitting on top from the container is sort of dried up now that it's just sat on the counter for a few minutes. Because it's just made it stick to my hands at the beginning. There you go. And see, what we've got is a much smoother product, much smoother ball, considering it's already been bulk fermenting for 7 hours. Yeah, so I think the mistake that I made is I let it bulk ferment as a mass for too long. Like I said, it was 23 hours. So yeah, give yourself 7-8 hours, no more, or until it starts to develop and you can start seeing relaxing and starting to rise. That's when you want to get to it, before it starts developing all that air. because you can start seeing there's a little bit of air bubbles on the top, on the surface. So yeah, let's see what the structure of these are, whether they're relaxed like the other ones, or whether these ones puff up and you get that beautiful puffy looking dough ball that we see oftentimes. So all right, bear with me and we'll check up on these in the next maybe 8 to 10 hours. All right, thanks guys. All right guys, so a bit of a quick update on the doughs. So it's been now approximately 20 hours since I first mixed and balled the doughs. This one here on the right is the one that I balled immediately. So have a look after 20 hours what it's looking like. Surprisingly, I thought it was going to stay collapsed, but surprisingly it's puffy. So they haven't overproofed or anything. They probably need another 3-4 hours before they're ready, I reckon. But they're looking pretty good. Yeah, I mean, from the video here right now, they look like they're ready pretty much to use right now. But they're looking a lot better than I expected. And this one here on the left is, this is the one that I balled in mass and put in that tall container. And I ended up balling this 7 hours after I let it bulk ferment in a mass. So you can see what they look like. So they're kind of catching up to the one on the right. So they're not quite there yet. But we're maintaining that smooth texture on top of the dough balls, which is what I was after. So we'll see you once these are ready to pretty much cook later on this evening. But yeah, we'll have a look if I can keep them at room temperature until tonight, or whether I need to put them in the fridge to block them. So yeah, all right, we'll see you soon. Alrighty, here's another update of the dough. It is now about probably about 28 hours since they've been fermenting. So I'll show you what they look like. So they've gone past that 24-hour period. Look how nice these look. These ones are the ones that I balled immediately versus the ones that I bulk fermented first in the mass and then balled 7 hours after I did the mass or the bulk fermentation. So when you look at them together, they're not that far off from each other. These ones are a little bit smaller, but you can see they maintain that beautiful smooth surface. They haven't over fermented, so there's no big bubbles or anything like that, but they're nice and puffy. So probably another hour and a half, 2 hours from when I'm going to cook them. And surprisingly, they haven't been managed in the fridge at all. So they've been at room temperature this whole time. So about 28 hours, and this is what it looks like. Yeah, so let's revisit this shortly. Yeah, so it's about, I don't know, maybe 28, 29 hours, well past 24-hour bulk fermentation for the doughs. So you can see what they look like. So these ones are proven pretty nicely. These are the ones I balled straight away. And you can see these are the ones that I balled and then bulk fermented, then balled 7 hours after. So when you're comparing them, they actually look very similar when you look at them side by side. Obviously these ones here are a little bit more proofed and a bit more puffy. All right, so just bear with me. I'll set up and let's see what they like. Let's see which one's better. So let's see if we can get this out. That's the other tricky part now, is getting it out of this box. Feels good though. Like it's not very sticky. Just gotta see if I can actually get it out. So when you cut it, it's
Yeah, and it sticks back together.
It sticks back together, that's right. That's the tricky part now is
That's not
it's not bad actually. Alright, let's see if we can get a decent pizza out of this.
And this is the one you only bought once, yeah?
Yeah, this is the one that I bought once. So I will do. Yeah, the one that I bought immediately. Just gonna dump a bit of flour in there. I pressed it a little bit, unfortunately, but it's extending much better, or stretching, I should say. So let's see what we get out of it. And it's getting some nice bubbles on the edges there. So, I'll move it over there. And we'll just do a comparison once I stretch this. Just do a bit of that. Alright. It's a bit uncoordinated, but there you go. Stretched a lot nicer than the other one. Probably could do a better job. Bit of tomato. And okay. Go for it. I'll pop this bubble. I'll start stretching it a little bit. Overall, it feels pretty good.
Yeah.
Alright, so, probably could have. So that's what it looks like.
Okay.
Alright, so I'm just going to pause this and then we'll look at it once it's cooked. Alright, so this is the one that I bulk fermented and then boiled 7 hours after. So I'm just going to take this one out. This one has a slightly different smell though. Yeah. So let's see what. Need a little bit more practice with pulling the dough out of the tray. Oh, look at that. Alright, so I'm just going to cover that up quickly. Give this one a bit of a stretch. And I'm not sure if we can see. Let's have a look. As far as texture, they're very similar. This one feels a little bit more sturdy when stretching it. Just has a little bit more elasticity to it. It sort of has a tendency to want to.
It's like the other one that you made the other day.
Yeah, it just tends to want to pull back in into itself. So just have to push the border. Yes, it's not stretching as nicely. It's not as relaxed. But in saying that, this one maybe lends itself more to slapping the dough. So when you slap it, it actually stretches nicely, but it's got that strength. and it's not tearing. So I think if you want to do the old-fashioned slap technique with the dough, then this one I think lends itself to that. If you want more, how do you say, a pliable, what's that?
Just here.
Dark?
A bit thin.
Oh, before I can't unthin it. So
You know, just be careful.
we'll see how we go. Oh well, it's part of the process of learning how the doughs respond, but it's a little bit, this one's a little bit more probably for that slapping technique. It seems to hold up, so I'll stretch it out a bit more. Okay. Let's have a look at what it looks like once it's cooked, and we'll compare them and see what the textures are like. Alright, so I'll just pause this and I'll go cook it. Okay, so here's the two pizzas side by side, both margaritas. So this one here on the right is the one that I balled immediately, which stretched a lot easier. Whereas this one here on the left is the one that I bulk fermented, then made the ball 7 hours later. I have to say, even though it was a little bit trickier to stretch, this feels a lot lighter dough wise. But what we'll do is we'll cut them and we'll get the kids eating them, and we'll come back with a judgment on these, okay? All right, so we're gonna stretch another one of the one that I balled straight away. So we'll see what this one turns out again like. Stretch. Yeah. But like I said before, this one stays where you put it a little bit better. So wherever you push the crust or the dough to, it tends to stay. We'll just do a little bit of that slap. Alright, just break some of those bubbles. Alright, the sauce. Okay, go for it. Basil. Good meal.
Yes.
There you go. And then what we'll do is we'll put
I have that one.
a bit of pepperoni,
No.
mushrooms, and then some of that.
No,
Got a bit of mozzarella.
I have this one.
Actually, stretch it a little bit. Actually, should have done it a bit earlier. I'm just going to pause this now. I'm just going to videotape it while it cooks. Alright, let's launch this and... It's a bit tricky with the phone in the way. Can't fold it itself a little bit. I accidentally launched that and hit the tripod and yeah, folded the pizza a little bit on itself. But you can see how it's puffing up. This is the Gosney S1 that I've purchased over Christmas. Was using the Uni Pro, So I've just done a bit of an update on the S1, which is not a bad oven. Cooks really nicely. You can see how nicely that's puffed up. You got to be very careful because you can easily burn the pizza, overcook it, as you can see. There's not enough light here actually, so I'll bring it inside and we'll have a look. All right, back to the drawing board with dough. All right, so we'll grab the one that I bulk fermented now for the second comparison. We'll grab this one. Yep. Sorry. Still came out alright. But yes, if you don't put enough flour, it's easy, you can see how easy it quickly grabs back onto the main, or the ball next to it. So this one, we'll give it a bit of a shape and then we'll stretch it. And again, this one has more of that elasticity, being that the one that I balled after 7 hours. Yeah, definitely a lot harder to stretch. So we'll have to see if we flip it around. Just push some of the dough. Alright, let's do the slap and stretch. This also gets rid of the excess semolina flour as well, so it doesn't burn in the oven. But it stretches pretty good when you slap it. It's quite strong, so it lends itself more to that type of technique. Just gonna pop that bubble. There, come on, pop. Alright. Okay. Yeah, it's definitely a lot more elastic. But when you do stretch it though, it tends to stay, it doesn't pull back too much. Alright. Alright, let's come back to one once they're cooked. Okay, so these are the two pizzas, the second lot that I've made. Pepperoni with mushroom, side by side. This one here is the one that I boiled immediately. And this one's the one that I bulk fermented then boiled 7 hours later. So cooking wise, yeah, they look very similar. I accidentally left this a little bit too long and burnt this side a little bit in the oven. This one is a little bit more uniform, but I have noticed it cooks more uniform with this one here than the bottom. This one is a little bit crispier as well. This one has gone soft pretty quick. So, all right, so we'll come back with a verdict once we've tasted them. Okay, guys, so the final verdict with this particular dough experiment is, okay, so to the right, we've got the dough balls that I balled immediately after mixing. So as you can see, it's like 30 hours on from when they started basically proofing since I balled them. They haven't overproofed. They're still maintaining their shape really well, actually. So, and then you've got the ones here to the left, which are the ones that I balled 7 hours after I did the bulk fermentation as a whole mass. So what I found is that even though I thought this was going to be a good dough, this one here, when it stretched well. However, when I cooked it cooked fine, but when you ate the pizza, it was a little bit more gummy or chewy. This one here, when it came to stretching, it had a lot more resistance, which is what I mentioned, when we spin the bowl slowly after we let the dough rest for 10 minutes. It added that strength to the dough that I don't like, where it makes it a little bit trickier to stretch. However, I feel like it lends itself really nicely to doing the slap technique when stretching the dough. This you can do it as well, and it was doing it easier. However, this was the far better dough. It was a lot lighter. Even when you handle the pizza after it was cooked, it was lighter. It stayed crispier, whereas this one went soft a lot quicker. And the smell, you can smell the difference in the doughs, even though they're exactly the same with ratios of everything. The only techniques, like I said, is this one here got rested in the bowl for 10 minutes. We spun it slowly and then bulk fermented it for 7 hours before balling it. That's it. That's the only difference. The smell when I was cooking it was incredible compared to this. Yeah, you could smell it, but not that much. The taste, you can actually taste the difference in the actual dough itself. This was a lot tastier. It wasn't chewy or gummy. I wouldn't say melt in your mouth, but when you bit into it, it bit in nicely, and the dough melted in your mouth once, you gave it a couple of chews. So far better, which was actually shocked, because when I was stretching it, I thought it was going to be nowhere near as good as this. So with this test, and if I had done it not side by side, or if I had done it 1 week this and 1 week this, I wouldn't have noticed or remembered the difference. But you can certainly taste this is far better quality, and I used the same ingredients and toppings on both pizzas, and it's amazing how the same toppings were elevated with this dough far better. They tasted like I had used different ingredients, even though this had the same ingredients. So that dough, this is why I want to do this experiment, is to work out what techniques work, what techniques don't, what different techniques do to the final result. So what I think I'm going to be doing the next time I'm going to do this experiment again, I think what we're going to do is we're going to stick to what I did here, but I'm going to split it. I'm going to do one which will get the spin in the bowl for like a full turn, and then one lot I'm going to do it without the spin, but I'm going to bulk ferment both for 7 hours in a mass, and then they're both going to get balled, and then we're going to do a test to see what is making that improvement to the dough. Is it the spin in the bowl, or is it the bulk fermentation? Because if it's the bulk fermentation that improves the dough and not the spin, we can take the spin out of the equation, because I don't like that added elasticity to the dough where it's harder to stretch. I prefer a dough that is easier to stretch. So yeah, let's do that test next time. Let's do it together if you want to watch. But yeah, follow along if you want to do the same mix. What I will do is I'll take out the Caputo Tipo1 next time out of it, and we'll just stick to the 2 plain flours. That way, if you want to follow along and try these at home, you don't have to stress about whether you've got that whole grain flour. It's not going to make a difference, just a taste difference. It might make a little bit of a difference when it comes to the hydration, but ultimately, I think it just simplifies the test. Yeah, so that's what I've found. So yeah, this one here, which is the one that I mass fermented before, or proofed before we boiled it, is the better quality. And hands down, even the kids, when they ate it, they all straight away, without me saying anything, it's just eat these 2 slices of pizza, you tell me which one's the best one. There was not even a case where they had to think about it for a minute. Straight away, as soon as they bit into the first bite, they're like, this one's better. So like I said, it elevated those ingredients. So there you go. Thank you for watching, and I hope you follow along to the next video, which I'll do. Thank you.